Hi, Mark Gilbert here. This video is entitled We Are Pockets of Consciousness, and that is the picture I would like to paint in your mind for the next few minutes as we go through three key points. The first point is that everything is mind or consciousness. The second point is that we live and move and have our being within that field of consciousness. And the third is that the shift of our perspective to see life in this way can have beneficial effects on our experience here in the third dimension. So that's where we're going. All is mind. Well, this is an idea that is a flip of what many of us have been trained on from our births when we were trained in school with scientific materialism that basically said, that we live in a universe of physical matter and that science is the tool that we use to understand how matter interacts with itself. This has led to us feeling like at the base of all of life is physical stuff that we drill down, but with to the smaller aspects of what we're living in, and we find molecules and atoms and electrons and protons, and that picture has been painted in our minds such that we think that we live in this field of stuff. But what I want you to flip and think of, and what has been around for many years, in fact, tracking back to the Hermetic teachings of ancient Egypt and all the way forward to many of the philosophers and scientists of the day who have studied quantum physics and other things, is that we actually have at the base of all that is consciousness. The scientist Amit Goswami likes to use the quote, consciousness is the ground of all being. And if you think about the ground of which we live in, and we can flip it from seeing it as matter to consciousness, then you're starting to get that picture of that switch. Now, I mentioned the Hermetic teachings. One of the best sources from that is a book written by William Walker Atkinson under the name Three Initiates. It's about a 100-year-old book. In there, he outlines basic tenets of the Hermetic teachings of ancient Egypt. And one of the very first ones is that all is mind. All is mind. And it wants to get at the shift of our perspective from seeing all as is matter to or stuff to all is mind or consciousness. Can you feel into that in this moment? Can you feel into the sense that maybe you're swimming in an ocean of energetic consciousness that has embedded itself with creativity, an evolutionary impulse to grow, a desire to create, and it allows us to recognize the interconnectedness of all it is. Many people and many philosophies say that is the basis of reality. If this is true, and we can shift our perspective into seeing it, and New Thought, by the way, of which I'm a New Thought minister, teaches that perspective, that all is mind, then that means that we live and move and have our being in consciousness, that we are swimming in an ocean of divine consciousness. Now, we tend to use the word consciousness in a way to think about conscious awareness. I'm either conscious or unconscious, and that when I go to sleep or if I have get put under an anesthesia, I'm unconscious. But what I want you to shift and think about is consciousness from a broader standpoint than simply your conscious awareness in this moment. And in fact, when we use the description that all is mind and that everything is living and having its being within the field of mind, what we have to then get at is, well, does that not necessarily mean that rocks and minerals have consciousness, that plants have consciousness, that animals have consciousness? And the answer is yes. If everything lives and moves and has its being within the field of mind and consciousness, then everything is embedded with a conscious awareness. Now, that doesn't mean that the rocks and the plants and the animals experience life as we do with our conscious awareness, but it means it has, at their level of consciousness, they have their own experiences. In fact, many people have pointed this out for many years. You can go back and find quotes from Emerson and before. There's a famous one from Ernest Holmes, the New Thought teacher, where he says, and I'm going to paraphrase this, that consciousness sleeps in the rocks, that it awakens within the plant, it grows to deeper levels within the animal, and it crosses a key threshold within humans. And what he was pointing out is that this evolution of matter also existed with an evolution of consciousness, such that within the complexity of humans, humans crossed a threshold within their complexity of consciousness that birthed within them the first aspects of self-awareness. Self-awareness meaning that you have the ability to think about your thinking, the ability to choose what you think about, and that everything below that was more rote, more automatic. So you and I have this freedom of choice and the ability to choose what we're thinking and a self-awareness that knows our thoughts. Okay. Ken Wilber, the famous integral philosopher, likes to use the description of depth of consciousness as evolution and matter evolved to deeper and deeper levels or more complex forms, that within that, since everything is consciousness, that buildup of consciousness created a sense of depth. So if you can picture that we are living in this ocean of the divine, this ocean of energy, this ocean of consciousness, and that things pop up and are a little deeper, have greater depth of consciousness, then you can sort of visualize that humans, you and I, are little pockets within an area where consciousness is sort of localized to a greater degree. Visualize that and then now see that everything is interconnected. Now, how does this now benefit your life if you can make this shift to seeing that all is mind and that you're living in this field of mind? Well, one thing is it allows you to see that your thoughts are part of this interconnectedness. In other words, thoughts become things, and that you recognize the power of your thinking to think into the field of consciousness, and that thoughts have a creative ability within this field. That's one aspect in which you can look at it. The second thing that it brings to the table is an awareness that everything is interconnected. We tend to think that we are separate and apart from one another, but when we shift and see that in this field of consciousness we are little pockets, then we start seeing that we're all interconnected at the base level of our field. Consciousness unites us. Consciousness unites us. And when we can recognize that, we can recognize too that each of us, as we've walked our own path in this third dimensional experience, have had different ideas, different experiences, and led ourselves to different beliefs. But at the root, we're all one and we're all interconnected, which opens our hearts to care and concern for greater and greater people. We can speak more on this in another video, but I think that's enough for now. I hope this has been beneficial to you. If it has, I would invite you to drop me a comment, hit that like button, and be certain to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support, and thank you for watching.